we did Q lifts and Quigley 4x4s before we ever ventured into suspension ads. And then we kind of took a different approach and started realizing a lot of people do also need, though, an increase in ride comfort and suspension without the lift.
Hey, what's up, adventurers? Today we're going to be discussing the Q lift and suspension options. If you like this type of content from us, please let us know by liking the video. Also, if there are any components that you would like to see us make videos about that you still have a lot of questions about, something more in-depth and more technical, please leave them in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date on all of our content, please subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get into it.
I don't think I want to touch it. I think I am perfectly fine.
Hey, you need a rest day every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about just not touching that guy.
Is there something in particular that's psyching you out?
Yeah, squat cleans. That's just, squatting is just, it's been a week, and so it's been a thing. It's been a whole thing. So. Alright, Leonard.
Alright. Gotta get, what's the name again?
This is Douglas.
Douglas.
And then we have Wonderhoof at my desk.
Okay, you have two ferrets?
No. This is a ferret, and then Wonderhoof is a mountain goat.
Oh, nice.
Provided by McLaughlin's.
Nice. Alright, so the topic I have for today is the Q lift. I'm trying to stay on the more technical component style topics. So I guess first off, what is the Q lift?
The Q lift is a lift, and Q lift is a lift that is provided by and designed by Quigley 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to Quigley 4x4, they were are a QVM certified builder for Ford,
mm-hmm.
And had been doing 4x4s on Econolines and Ford Transits for years.
Yeah.
And a part of their 4x4 ad was 2 inches of lift. And it's kind of tricky to say. I would not say this is an accurate statement, but it's best to explain it. It's a 2-inch body lift.
Okay.
That's not accurate, but it's a little bit confusing with a unibody vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But you are blocking and you are lifting the body.
Okay.
But you're not. You're affecting your drive lines and things like that. So you're also lifting your transfer case. You're also lifting some of the other components.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a suspension lift, but it's also really not a body lift, because if you do a true body lift, that means that you're taking everything on the bottom side of the unit and leaving it where it's at, and truly taking the cab and chassis.
Yeah.
Chassis, I guess, is technically the underside, and you're just lifting that portion.
Okay.
That's not exactly what it is, and we can dive a little bit deeper into that if you want. But it is a 2-inch lift. That is a part of the Quigley 4x4.
Yeah.
The Q lift, though, is the Quigley 4x4 without the 4x4. Because in 2020, Ford Transit came out with the all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And so Quigley went after trying to still get that same increase of approach angle, increase of departure angle that the Quigley 4x4 on prior models got you.
Yeah.
Because you're putting a transfer case under the front end. You're actually being able to push power to the front wheels.
Yeah.
Because before they only had a rear-wheel drive option.
Yeah.
Well, now with all-wheel drive, we still want the lift. We still want those benefits of being able to get the body up.
Yeah.
And so the Q lift is something that we partnered with Quigley on, and been a big supporter, provider, helping give feedback and helping tweak it into what it is today. And now we have it on hundreds of units on the road.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I don't know if I would say we've got it on 500 units necessarily at this point, but I would say in the next 6 months or when you might be watching this, we probably have.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge benefit to the Ford Transit that naturally already sits lower than the Mercedes Sprinter.
Yeah.
And so it does give you those benefits. It does give you those gains. But it all originates back to the old Ford Econolines, the Quigley 4x4, and keeping that ability of getting that 2-inch of body lift / look. Yeah. I mean, really, let's just face it. 9 times out of 10, vehicles are lifted for the look, not the functionality. And it gives it that. Yeah. So that's what the background, I guess you could say, is of the Q lift.
Yeah. So on our kind of process, we have it in stages. So there's a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3.
Mm-hmm.
How would you break down like the progressive benefits of each of those stages?
So you have a little bit of disclaimer here. So you have lift and then you have suspension. You can do suspension without a lift, and you can do a lift without increasing the suspension capabilities.
Yeah.
Factory vehicles have front struts with coils. And I say transit, for disclaimer. Front strut, front coil. And then you have a rear shock. Okay, and then you potentially have a sway bar in the rear based on if it's cargo, passenger. We build on passengers and cargos now, and we add sway bars to our cargos.
Yeah.
Which is a huge benefit. But stage 1 through 3, based on when you're watching this, those stages are always changing.
Yeah.
And so I'll kind of walk through the variations. But know that description below, just if you're watching this to confirm what you want, please double check your build sheet.
Yeah.
Double check with our team.
Yeah.
Because this information might not be completely accurate as we make tweaks and changes.
Yeah.
Stage 1, though, when we're talking with lift involved, Q lift, stage 1 is simply just a lift.
Okay.
So we're keeping fully factory suspension. You're not gaining really ride comfort in any fashion. You're not really decreasing ride comfort either.
Yeah.
And quality. You're not really changing much. All you're doing is you're basically taking the factory suspension and we're stretching it.
Okay.
Is one way to put it. We do spacers like on the front struts. We're spacing it down. So the travel is remaining similar / the same. A little bit kind of the same with the angle of the rear shocks. We're not really changing much. However, when you do lift a vehicle, you are giving more roll capacity.
Yeah.
So, in the terms of lifting a unit without additional suspension, you are going to feel wind stronger. You're going to feel it more. I mean, it's just, put a flag 1 foot in the air versus 50 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Way more flex 50 feet than 1 foot.
Yeah.
Why? Cantilever.
Yeah.
Cantilever and leverage. And so stage 1 would just be simply gaining the initial differences. You're going to gain the difference in approach angle and departure angle. Second to that, for clarity too, when you do a Q lift, it's also giving you the ability of running a larger tire. Yeah. So whenever our customers want to go through our third-party vendors to get the Q lift ad and to, do exterior accessories that are dealer ad components through us for the financing portion, when they do that, we now basically demand and require a tire change out. Because lifting a vehicle on a factory tire, it's like, why?
Yeah.
You can fit a 245 tire on these units not lifted.
Okay.
But you get into rubbing issues. You get into some of the issues that people have seen with the trails. You get into some of these issues.
Yeah.
By lifting the unit with the Q lift, you now have actually deterred away from some of the known issues with the 245 tire. And that's like a very common wannabe used tire size.
Yeah.
still staying on the 16-inch rim. And so, and we use the AT4W now as our preferred tire through our parties. So stage 1 gets you that ability of approach and departure, but no real change in ride comfort.
Yeah.
You do have to pay a little bit more attention to wind because you are a little bit taller.
Yeah.
High roofs are more affected than mid roofs.
Yeah.
Dualies do a better job than just standard high roofs for kind of information. And then also it gives you that additional ability of having clearance with a larger tire.
Yeah.
You do still have to trim the wheel well. You do still have to do those things, but it does benefit you.
Yeah.
That's stage 1. Stage 2, we are upgrading the front struts with Bilsteins.
Okay.
Getting rid of the factory struts. We are staying with a progressive front coil. What that means is that basically it is giving you just a soft, consistent feeling on the front end suspension.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more of like an air ride feel. Like you hit a bump and you're going to come out of it and you're going to just kind of keep a wave, and eventually that wave's going to stop.
Yeah.
But when you first hit, you're really going to feel it pretty good, but you're going to carry through it. On the rears, we're replacing the factory shocks with the Bilstein rear shocks as well.
Yeah.
So stage 2 in the context of this, or referred to as like stage 1 suspension package, progressive in the coil in the front with a Bilstein strut added. It's giving you a little bit more control. Rear, you are adding a Bilstein rear shock, again, more control with as that shock absorbs. It's giving a little bit more response control in that regard. One thing I didn't touch on is that in the front, you're spacing to get the 2-inch lift. You're actually spacing the front cradle down, and that's where you're gaining your height difference. In the rear, it's a 2-inch block on the axle, on your leaf springs. So that's really your stage 1 suspension 2 if you're including lift only as a one package.
Yeah.
What we would consider our stage 3 package, which would be like our top tier suspension at the moment, is we are staying with the same Bilstein front strut. We are going from a progressive front coil to a front linear coil.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned on the progressive, you have that wave effect, right? So when you hit a big bump, you got a big wave, but it's going to settle out. But you're going to feel you're going to go over it, and you're kind of just going to feel your vehicle
bounce a little bit.
Bounce, but it's going to feel good, though.
Yeah.
No shock, no real abrupt. No hard hit. Okay. Linear, though, is quick response. What it's doing is it's a much harder coil, more aggressive, kind of trying to keep this in layman's terms and terms for myself.
Yeah. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Explain it to me like I'm 5. Whenever you go to a linear coil, you hit that same bump. Before it's long. Now when you hit it with a linear coil, you're actually going to hit that bump. Your tire's going to go down. It's going to shoot back up. And your body of your vehicle, though, is going to remain consistent. So you're going to feel potentially a hard, quick hit.
Yeah.
But you don't bounce for the next 20 feet, 30 feet, based on what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're going to feel it instant, but then you're past it. The reason that's a benefit is because of traction and control. If you're like overlanding or off-roading or on gravel, whatever the case might be, if you bounce, every time you're bouncing, you're bringing your weight back off your wheels, and then you're coming back down on your wheels. So you're losing and gaining traction while you're doing that. So if you think about it, progressive, your chassis is going up and down, and your wheel and tire is kind of staying where it's at. Go to linear, and your vehicle is staying the same, and your tire and wheels doing the work.
Yeah.
What it's doing is it's basically keeping downward force at all times of that weight in that vehicle staying always stay level, stay down for traction.
Yeah.
But you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
Based on what you're wanting, that initial punch is more traction. It is safer.
Yeah.
again, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
If you want it to ride like a Cadillac, like everyone always says, staying with a progressive coil is going to keep that good feeling and smooth pace.
Yeah.
And the Bilsteins have good control.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. It's not additional reservoirs. It's not anything like that. But it has good control. Linears do loosen up because of the weight of the units, braking and things like that. And that's another benefit to the linear is it does, and there's no information to really back this. It's more just observation. When the vehicle can stay more consistent whenever you're going through terrain, you have more braking power.
Mm-hmm.
The more that vehicle is going up and down, you're losing braking power.
Yeah.
It's traction. It comes back to traction. So stage 3, we're going to a linear coil. And then on the rear, we are going from a Bilstein rear shock to a Fox 2.0 non-adjustable shock with a remote reservoir. So you got additional capacity for, layman's terms, additional cooling capacity.
Okay.
As your cylinder is going in and out faster with terrain, that fluid inside is going to heat up.
Yeah.
When it heats up, it's going to ruin seals. It's going to stop functioning properly. Additional reservoir is more fluid to stay cooler longer. It's kind of like if you make that Keurig try to heat up hot water that's 50 gallons, it's going to take forever.
Yeah.
But if it only has to heat up a cup, it'll do it in seconds.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You're adding additional cooling capacity.
Yeah.
Again, very layman's terms, not scientific.
Yeah.
But that's, at the end of the day, additional reservoir is longevity.
Yeah.
Think of it as longevity. And so, and also with the Foxes, they are valved for the weight of our vehicles. Unlike the Bilstein, that's just right off the shelf. That's a better upgrade than stock. The Fox 2.0s with reservoirs, we are valving them to handle the weight best.
Yeah.
So it's helping respond. It's not springing back too fast. You mountain bike ride, I mountain bike ride. The Foxes that are on our forks where we can adjust, I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah.
The Foxes we use are not adjustable.
Yeah.
We have done adjustable. It's great if you know how to use it. 90% of the time, adjustable can only get you in trouble.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we set it, we valve it, and hey.
There's fewer variables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also with the Fox 2.0s, because of stroke length, we also do a shock relocation on the axle, which, for anybody who really pays attention, and we also have a video that compares the Q-lift to the trail.
Yeah.
We do a shock relocation because a lot of people call those hangers. They hang down below the axle. So no matter what we do with lifting the body, your ground clearance, though, is still bound by your axle. And so whenever those hangers drop lower, you're hanging up lower.
Yeah.
Now your rear case is actually back there hanging at the same distance, so we could argue, there's still something hanging down there.
Yeah.
But we do shock relocate. That's for stroke length. It is for clearance, but it is also because the Foxes, the length that they are, best operate when we put them at a different geometry. And so, again, kind of like how I explained, like linear versus progressive in the front, the Foxes in the rear as an upgrade over the Bilsteins is kind of replicating that same effect, which is more than anything response time.
Yeah.
It's how quickly you are handling when you're hitting terrain.
Yeah.
You don't want to bounce. You want the wheels and tires to absorb.
Yeah.
And that's what the Foxes are help assisting, especially with the additional capacity of cooling with the reservoir.
Yeah.
Again, layman's terms. But what we are also doing in that package is we're adding a leaf. Now, we are keeping the 2-inch block. One reason for the leaf add is because for us being certified, we are required to keep, and you should anyway, but whenever our units are fully built out, we have to keep factory angles. So you always want the nose level or down just a touch.
Okay.
Aerodynamics, look in general, you're going to be adding additional capacity to the rear. Last thing you want to do is load the rear down and it squats more than the front.
Yeah.
So you're helping by keeping that angle, you're helping making sure that weight is distributing correctly for center of gravity.
Yeah.
And safety
Yeah.
is really the other aspect. With all those things said, we do add that additional leaf in there for one, load capacity control. But two, a lot of it is getting the proper height.
Yeah.
You could say that, just go to a taller block. But then again, a block is not doing really much for actual load capacity. And that's why we really prefer the leaf.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to asterisk is with 2023 models and newer, a lot of those units we're actually doing a leaf even on units that have no suspension, no Q lift.
Mm-hmm.
We're adding a leaf for that angle.
Yeah.
So as I've talked through all of this, in most cases we're adding a leaf in almost all of our builds because the space that Ford provides from their factory bump stop to the axle is already so tight. Really, they're using the axle as the stopping point when a unit is at GVWR. And that's not, should say it's not right.
Yeah.
That's not how suspension works. You're taking away suspension.
Yeah.
And so we do typically put a leaf on every unit that leaves.
Yeah.
Mainly for getting the butt up. Also, though, load capacity.
Yeah.
So, having talked through all that, let's go back to the stages to not try to be so technical. Stage 1, you are benefiting approach angle and departure angle.
Yeah.
Step 1. Step 2, you are gaining ride comfort.
Yeah.
Stage 3, you are gaining control and load control.
Yeah.
So weight, really. I mean, if anyone asks me, I'm asking them questions to determine, are you always going to be heavy loaded?
Yeah.
Are you not going to be heavy loaded? Those type questions.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And so.
No, that totally, it explained it a lot for me too, because I was like, I see these stages, but I don't really know what the benefits of each one are.
Yeah. And my knowledge is like here. It was here. Now it's here. Some of the guys, they're up here.
Yeah.
I used to, instead of calling it linear, I used to call it non-progressive.
Yeah.
So they've gotten me more talking proper.
Yeah.
And definitely read the comments below and read the description in case I said anything wrong here.
I'll try to put definitions of some of those terms on the screen too.
Yeah, definitely check the description here because we want to make sure we correct anything I just said.
Yeah. And those stages are ever changing.
They're ever changing. They're ever changing. For a very long time, we did Q lifts and Quigley 4x4s before we ever ventured into suspension adds. Yeah. And then we kind of took a different approach and started realizing a lot of people do also need, though, an increase in ride comfort and suspension without the lift. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm saying, like, really the flow of the packages really are accurate.
Yeah.
However, really our new stage 1 is actually suspension without Q lift.
Yeah.
And then Q lift actually comes in with stage 2, but stage 1, stage 2 suspension is the same.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, check the description out. We'll kind of break it down. Let's vet it. Let's vet what I said. Yeah. But no, it's really, regardless of what I just mentioned, it comes down back to, okay, build options for the customers, for the people listening, for education, sales, whomever. You've got, do you want to increase ride comfort? Mm-hmm. Do you need to increase approach and departure? I will just go ahead and say absolutely yes if you're buying an extended length. That was the reason why we ever looked at working with Quigley on the Q lift. Yeah. Is because ELs have an overhang behind the rear axle. Yeah. You go in any sort of city that has any sort of changes in parking lots, you're dragging. Yeah. And that was what ventured us into that so fast. We do bike racks. We have people who have carriers on the back. You're dragging.
Yeah.
So, it's a matter of ride comfort. You need approach and departure, and then load capacity.
Yeah.
Saying, well, I need suspension for overlanding. The guys we were just talking out back about how when we put an EL, non-lifted, no suspension, in a Jeep trail, it never should have been, and it is perfectly fine. Yeah. So I would just say for what we offer, overlanding and the need of those things, it's kind of secondary.
Yeah.
It's really worry about the other one first.
Yeah.
So, that's what I would say for anybody who's using this to try to figure out what package they want.
Yeah.
What do you drive now? What do you drive now? Compare it to that. And if you love just the feeling of just soft, it would be either stage 1 without a Q lift, or stage 2 with, is really what it would be. But if you're like, hey, no, I really want response time. I care a ton about traction.
Yeah. Because
I am going to be on rough roads. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say like off road. I'm just going to say rough roads.
Yeah.
Potholes, cities. Stage 3. Yeah. Stage 3, unless you're really light. Unless you're like a single individual with carrying almost no supplies, no bike racks, no bumpers, any of that. If you're really staying light on the chassis, stage 2.
Yeah.
But if you're getting next to that point where you really want security and weight control, stage 3.
Yeah. Cool. No, so it sounds like if people are interested or in the process of getting a van, do it. Talk to your guru. Give them the most information that you can, because they don't want you to end up with too much either.
Absolutely. Yep.
So just give them the most information you can give to them. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they're asking the right questions, but then you end up with exactly what you want on that QL system.
You can pay more. You can pay more money for suspension and end up with a worse ride.
Yeah.
Based on how you're using it. Mm-hmm. And we don't want that.
Yeah.
So definitely ask them, use this video. Please read the description below. Asterisk. And we'll be good. So, awesome, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.